Picture a plot of land smaller than New Jersey. Now, imagine that tiny strip of dirt sparking fortunes so massive they rival the GDP of actual nations. Sound like a fantasy? It is not. This is Israel, a place where survival instincts double as business strategies. The families on this list did not just chase a paycheck, they chased destiny. We are talking about dynasties that clawed their way from war zones to the penthouses of Manhattan and Monaco. They did not inherit a cushy life, they engineered a takeover. You do not build this kind of wealth by asking nicely. These empires rose through calculated gambles, crushing pressure, and those do-or-die moments where one wrong move means total erasure. We are looking at pharma deals that rewrote modern medicine. Secret code that secures the planet's digital frontiers. Shipping fleets that turned the open ocean into a private toll road. Each family mastered a different battlefield, but they all played by the same rule. Power belongs to the ones who strike first and dream bigger. Forget the yachts and the private jets for a second. This is not about flash. It is about leverage. It is about how a tiny nation with zero natural resources managed to build infinite reach. As we peel back the layers of these stories, you are going to see exactly how innovation morphs into empire. Some of these names are silently running your daily routine. Others are out there bending the global stock markets to their will, but every single one of them commands respect. Before we get into the heavy hitters, I want to know who is on the other side of this screen. Where are you tuning in from? If you are stateside, drop a 1 in the comments. Europe, hit 2. Asia, press 3. Anywhere else, smash that 4. And hey, if you are addicted to stories about raw power, massive wealth, and real-life empires, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Trust me, you will not believe what is coming next. Every dynasty starts with a blip on the radar. A cramped office, a failing startup, a split-second choice made with a gun to your head. Take our first family. Their story did not kick off with billions in the bank or flashy headlines. It started with a boring business in one of the toughest neighborhoods on the planet. Back then, Israel's economy was shaky at best. Success took more than just brains, it took serious guts. These guys figured out a secret. You can monetize survival. They did not waste time chasing fads. They doubled down on the stuff nations literally cannot survive without: medicine, roads, security. While everyone else was getting cold feet, they went all in, locking down industries that were guaranteed to explode as the world got messier and more dangerous. It was quiet, disciplined, and terrifyingly smart. Forget luck. This was about timing and a lethal amount of patience. They would wait years, decades, even just for the perfect opening. And when that window opened, they did not hesitate. They merged, acquired, and positioned themselves right at the choke points of the global supply chain. One signature on a contract could multiply their clout overnight, turning a mom-and-pop shop into a global juggernaut that you could not kill if you tried. The real action happened behind closed doors. They traded battlefield tactics for boardroom strategy, but the philosophy was identical: eat or be eaten. Their bank accounts did not just spike one year, they compounded relentlessly. They kept plowing the profits back into the machine, refusing to get comfortable. While the competition was busy chasing a quick buck, this family was building a legacy written in stone. By the time the rest of the world caught on, the game was already over. The foundation was set, the network was locked, and they held the only keys. What looked like an overnight success story was actually the payoff of years of grinding in the dark. And here is the kicker: this is just the warm-up act. The next families on our list took this blueprint and turbocharged it. As the economy shifted gears, a new breed of power players stepped up. These guys did not care about factories or cargo ships. This chapter is about a family that knew the future would be written in ones and zeros, not concrete and steel. While the old guard was fighting over physical turf, they zeroed in on the invisible goldmine: information. In a world rushing online, they spotted the cracks in the armor before anyone else saw the gold. This crew came up in a world where tech was not a toy, it was a lifeline. We are talking about a mindset forged in military intelligence units, where high-stakes problem-solving is just a Tuesday. They did not build flashy gadgets for teenagers. They engineered the critical systems that keep governments and banks from collapsing. They operated in the shadows, but their fingerprints were everywhere. Here is what made them different from your average Silicon Valley hopeful. Discipline. They ignored the hype train. They did not expand just for the sake of it. They were obsessed with control. One key invention became the spine of an entire global industry. Once it was in, you could not rip it out. The money just kept rolling in on autopilot. This was not growth fueled by slick marketing. It was growth fueled by absolute necessity. As their net worth skyrocketed, they stayed ghost. No magazine covers. No scandals. Their power came from being everywhere at once, without ever being seen. Every time a new cyber threat popped up, their stock just went up. They turned panic into profit. While everyone else was running around trying to put out fires, these guys were selling the hoses. By the time the public realized the world ran on their tech, they were untouchable. Their influence spanned continents, quietly dictating how data flows and how digital borders are held. This story proves a scary point. The most dangerous empires are not the loud ones. They are the ones you literally cannot afford to live without. But hey, not everyone likes the quiet approach. Some empires are built right in your face, fueled by pure momentum. This next chapter is about a family that grasped one simple truth. If you control the flow, you control the power. Long before globalization was a buzzword, they knew that goods, cash, and people were going to move faster than ever. So, they parked themselves right in the middle of the highway. They started with the scraps, old buildings, forgotten trade routes, businesses that looked too messy or risky for the suits on Wall Street. But chaos was their comfort zone. They analyzed the patterns, waited for the market to freak out, and bought when blood was in the streets. While the competition was hunting for quarterly bonuses, they were snatching up strategic assets that would pay dividends for 40 years. They grew fast, but they did not grow stupid. Every buy had a reason. They linked markets, connected regions, and blurred the lines. Hotels turned into real estate plays. Transport merged with infrastructure. They built an empire that grew up and out at the same time, creating a fortress against economic crashes. When the recessions hit, the weak players folded. This family, they just swallowed them whole. The defining trait here was grit. Financial meltdowns, political upheavals, global pandemics, nothing could knock them down. Their portfolio was built to eat chaos for breakfast. While the news anchors were screaming about volatility, their balance sheets just got stronger. Today, you probably walk through their assets without even knowing it. Airports, hotels, landmarks, all tracing back to decisions made decades ago. Their story is proof that you do not need to be famous to be powerful. Positioning is everything. And as we move forward, the stakes are only getting higher. Some fortunes are built on code, others on concrete. But this next one? It came from a weird mix of creativity, risk, and constant reinvention. This chapter follows a family that crossed lines most CEOs would be terrified to touch. They did not stick to one lane. They jumped industries and identities, always hunting for value in the places where everyone else saw a mess. These guys knew that culture is the ultimate multiplier. They danced between hard business strategy and the art of storytelling. By backing crazy ideas and wild talent, they turned risky bets into global sensations. Did they fail? Sure. But they ate the losses and kept moving. And when they won, the payoff did not just make money, it shifted the culture. What made them special was their iron stomach for risk. When the big banks hesitated, they threw in their own cash, trusting a gut instinct sharpened by years in the trenches. Timing was their weapon. They got in early, got out late, and always controlled the story. They did not build this empire by brute force, they built it by being smarter and bolder than the rest. Behind the glitz, they ran a tight ship. Profits from one win funded the next expedition. Every victory gave them more leverage, kicking open doors that were previously welded shut. Over time, they built a portfolio that looked like a jumbled mosaic to the untrained eye. But look closer, and you see one unifying rule: own what others rent and shape what others consume. It is a completely different playbook for domination. No shouting, no predictability, just raw, undeniable influence. This story proves that building a fortune isn't just about stacking assets or optimizing systems. It is about having the vision and the guts to charge in when everyone else is running for the exits. In the next chapter, we are climbing even higher, inching toward the absolute peak of Israel's most powerful dynasties. When you get to this altitude, the margin for error hits zero. This chapter zeroes in on a family that built their legacy on surgical precision. They didn't play in safe sandboxes, they forged an empire in defense, security, and national infrastructure industries where a single mistake is unforgiving, and trust is the only currency that matters. While others might hesitate, they navigated these minefields with ice-cold confidence and a plan spanning decades. These guys operated right where public duty crashes into private muscle. They weren't just selling to the average consumer, they were serving governments, militaries, and the institutions responsible for protecting millions of lives. You don't win those contracts with a slick marketing campaign. You win them by being rock solid. When the heat turned up, their reliability became their calling card, and their reputation became their most expensive asset. What really turbocharged their growth wasn't speed, it was credibility. While the competition was busy, over-promising, and under-delivering, this family just kept putting points on the board, year after year. That consistency gave them the ticket to go global, exporting their expertise way beyond Israel's borders. Every acquisition was a calculated chess move, grabbing advanced tech and locking it into a tight, highly specialized ecosystem. Even with an operation this massive, they kept a stranglehold on control. All the big calls came from the top, disciplined and totally deaf to the short-term static. That structure was their armor against political winds, regulatory headaches, and the ethical questions that always dog the defense world. While others folded under the pressure, they just adapted and kept moving forward. Their influence today is a bit of a riddle. The people who matter see them clearly, but to the general public, they are practically invisible. Yet, the technologies they control define how safety, surveillance, and defense work across the globe. It is living proof that the real heavy hitters usually do their work in the shadows. And as we press on, that concentration of wealth and pull is only getting denser. At this tax bracket, money isn't the goal anymore. Control is. This chapter highlights a dynasty that turned influence into an art form, spanning borders, industries, and generations. Their rise wasn't about one lucky break. It was about the ability to move capital to exactly where the power was going to be next. They didn't chase the market, they were waiting for it. This family got rich by reading the rhythm of the world. Economic booms, political shakeups, tech waves, they didn't see threats, they saw green lights. When everyone else was reacting, they were quietly shifting gears. When fear was splashing across the headlines, they were calmly buying up assets that would later become indispensable. That patience let them walk into sectors most people were too scared to touch. What makes this clan exceptional is how they branched out without watering down their power. Media, finance, sports, real estate, and global investments were all tied together by one golden rule: influence compounds faster than cash. By owning the platforms that tell the story and the assets that hold up the economy, they ensured they stayed relevant, no matter which industry was surging next. Their grip goes way beyond a profit and loss statement. Decisions made in their quiet private offices send ripples through public life, culture, and international relations. Yet the family itself stays deliberately out of the circus. In their world, real power works best when it doesn't make a sound. This chapter marks a major shift. From here on out, we are not talking about wealth measured in billions. We are talking about leverage that can rewire entire systems. The families coming up next don't just watch history happen from the sidelines. They grab the pen and help write the script. At the highest tier of influence, going global isn't a choice, it is the default setting. This chapter looks at a family whose empire stretches across oceans, markets, and political lines with terrifying ease. They started small, grinding on a single asset that took resilience and foresight. But over time, that foundation morphed into a network so vast that global trade itself has to curve around it. They figured out early that logistics is destiny. If you move the resources, you control the timing, the pricing, and the leverage. They mastered the chaos, turning market crashes into discount shopping sprees and expansions into moments to tighten the ship. While the competition got crushed by the boom and bust roller coaster, this family mastered the ride through diversification and perfect timing. What separates this family from the rest of the pack is structural intelligence. Their ships needed fuel, so they bought energy. Energy fueled the infrastructure. Infrastructure unlocked real estate and finance. Every piece propped up the others, creating an ecosystem built to survive political earthquakes and economic meltdowns. Power wasn't just in one company, it was woven into an interlocking web of assets. Their leadership style is military-grade, disciplined, and intensely strategic. They don't plan for the next quarter, they plan for the next 20 years. They embrace risk, sure, but never with a blindfold on. The result is an empire that feels less like a business portfolio and more like the operating system for global commerce. As we head into the final chapters, one truth becomes unavoidable. Up here, wealth isn't about accumulation anymore. It is about permanence, and the families still ahead on our list have cracked that code. When wealth hits its final form, it stops being reactive and starts being generational. This chapter focuses on a family whose dominance isn't defined by a single founder, but by a succession plan executed with surgical precision. The transition is where most empires crumble. These guys treated it like a strategic weapon. Power wasn't just handed out, it was engineered to multiply. They understood that a legacy is fragile without a steel frame. From day one, they separated the assets, clarified who did what, and spread their influence across the map. Instead of one centralized throne, they built parallel centers of power that operated on their own but reinforced each other. It was resilience through decentralization. What makes them extraordinary is their ability to operate above emotion. Every decision is measured, not sentimental. Family ties strengthen the system, but they never override discipline. If an industry shifted, they exited without hesitation. When opportunities popped up, they moved with a swagger backed by decades of experience navigating the chaos. Their empire now hums along in finance, infrastructure, natural resources, and strategic holdings that anchor national economies. Governments negotiate, markets panic, yet the family stays insulated, protected by layers of ownership and long-game positioning. Public attention comes and goes, but their control remains constant. This chapter represents the final step before total domination. What lies ahead isn't just a story about money. It is about responsibility, influence, and the heavy weight that comes with shaping systems far larger than any one person. At the summit of extreme wealth, the conversation changes. This final chapter isn't about how a family gets rich, but how they choose to wield that power once money is no longer a constraint. Every dynasty we have explored reached a point where capital was endless, but only a few understood that unchecked ambition can destroy the very legacy it builds. The greatest empires survive not because they conquer everything, but because they know when to pump the brakes. The most enduring empires share a few common principles. First, they think in decades, not quarters. Short-term wins are garbage without long-term stability. Second, they check their ego at the door. Decisions are guided by systems, not emotions. And third, they recognize that influence comes with a bill called responsibility. Wealth without contribution eventually kills trust, and trust is the only currency that buys you longevity. There is a massive lesson here for anyone watching, regardless of your bank balance. You don't need billions to think strategically. You don't need an empire to invest in integrity. These families remind us that discipline, patience, and adaptability matter at every level of life. Even the most powerful titans began with uncertainty, risk, and doubt. What separated them was the courage to act, while others froze, and the wisdom to evolve when the world changed. As global challenges get more complex, the future is going to belong to the builders, the ethical leaders, and the ones who play the long game. Success is hollow if you leave a wasteland behind you. True wealth isn't just about what you control, it is about what you improve. Now I want to pass the mic to you. Which story really hit home for you, and why? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you have watched this far, you are clearly someone who values depth, insight, and real-world power dynamics. Make sure you smash that like button, share this with someone who thinks big, and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the world's most influential families. This is where ambition meets perspective, and the story is just getting started.